What if the financial mistake that cost you nearly $2 million became your greatest teacher? In this episode, I talk with Lauri Kibby, managing partner at Seleen Brighthouse, a real estate investment fund built on an unexpected foundation. After losing almost $2 million in a Ponzi scheme, despite her MBA and decades in construction and development, Lauri realized that if it could happen to her, it could happen to anyone. She transformed that painful lesson into a mission, creating a fund that doesn't just offer investment opportunities, but builds a community where women learn to ask the right questions, understand their full net worth, and invest with confidence. Lauri shares how money was used as a weapon in her childhood, how she learned to trust herself despite fear, and why she believes women's greatest power lies in embracing both strategic thinking and emotional intelligence. If you've ever felt afraid to ask financial questions or struggled to see beyond immediate needs, this conversation will empower you.
Welcome to Making Change with Your Money, a podcast that highlights the stories and strategies of women who experienced a big life transition and overcame challenges as they redefined financial success for themselves. Now here's your host, certified financial planner, Laura Rotter.
Welcome, Lauri, to the Making Change with Your Money podcast. I am so excited to have you as my guest today, and I'm looking forward to our conversation.
So am I, Laura. It's very nice to have been invited, and I look forward to our conversation as well and sharing information.
So I'm going to start, as I always do, with the question, Lauri, what was money like in your family growing up?
Oh, gosh. Oh, that's a deep one. Money was a weapon in my childhood. My memory, of course, not as a young child, but definitely when I entered university. And I went to university very early. I was 16. So I left school early. I guess I was a smart young person and got to leave high school early. But unfortunately, money was an item that was taken away always at the last minute when I needed it. College tuition, rent on my apartment, et cetera, et cetera. So it was a little bit of a weapon between myself and my father. I lived with my father. My parents were divorced when I was young. But we lived a very opulent life. My father was a surgeon. And so it wasn't that it was missing in our life, because we always had what we wanted. We traveled, we had beautiful homes. You know, from a youth's perspective, we had a upper middle class life. But money was, when I finally came conscious about money, it was definitely more of a weapon, or at least that's what I felt like it was. And I know to this day, I still struggle a little bit with that perspective of money disappearing at the last minute. And there's always that sub-level fear about that a little bit, interestingly enough. I mean, it doesn't affect me anymore now in the same way, but it exists there, you know. It's like a little nidge. I don't know how to explain it better than that, but so that's how it was in my youth.
Well, thanks for sharing that. And when you say used as a weapon, was it really to reward and to...
I think it was to try to spur me on to betterness or greatness. It was because my memory was when I needed the money for the education, as an example, is what could I do to get back into the good graces of my father so that he would actually then pay the tuition. So it was always about trying to figure out a strategy. And maybe that's why I'm such a good strategist now. But yeah, I'm going to chalk it up to that one. That's
positive
right.
Spin.
That's right, exactly. I believe in positive spins. So it was always about strategizing. Okay, what did I need to do to make what I needed to have happen? I don't know why my father did it. I can't even guess. My father passed away when I was 23 or 24. So
Wow.
that was never a resolved issue, but it was just, looking back, talk about positive spins. I do think that it gave me a set of skills. I became less afraid of being able to move forward. Like the world doesn't end when you think you're not getting what you think you need financially. It doesn't end. And there's always a strategy or something you can do to make it reappear. I mean, in the simplistic terms of a 17-year-old or an 18-year-old,
Yeah.
And I think as I've matured, it doesn't look like that anymore, but I suspect that I still have the same thing. I'm very good at strategically organizing things when things look to be a catastrophe or that they're not going to go in the direction that I thought that they would. And early on in my career, I'm dealing with the fear that money would disappear without me knowing it or why has, it's made me be more thoughtful about it. And looking back and realizing that it always happened, it always came through. That's what's interesting. So it always came through. So I'm sure that there was a positive effect of that which is why I still keep able to move forward. Even to this day, when things don't go right in my business or whatever, I figure out how to handle it, keep moving forward. Like it doesn't stop me anymore. Like I don't live in the fear of it won't be there. I don't know if that helps at all understanding it, but
It does. It really, thank you for couching it in those terms. As I said, not only is a positive spin, but I'm hearing you, Lauri, as a woman who knows her strengths. And frankly, at 17, 18, as you start to tell the story of your journey, you sound like you were, mature beyond your years, that you needed to, if you will, strategize how to pay for certain things that perhaps given how you were brought up, you took for granted. Did you end up getting college paid for, or did you?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Okay.
It got paid for. Yes, it got done. I lived in my own apartment. I had a car. Yeah, no, looking back, now, trust me, the adult word is strategize. Gosh knows what I thought at the time when I was 17 or 18, but everything was paid for. So that's the interesting thing. Though it was a weapon, it was always overcomable, if you will. I don't even know if that's a word, but
Yes.
I could always overcome what the barrier was. And whether it required me to think of different actions to take or different ways to deal with my father potentially. So how to maneuver the relationship, if you will. It's a long time ago now, but it was a multiple things. It always got paid for though. So I was always able to get my education and have a place to live and have food on the table. It just always wasn't just a flow.
Yes.
It was like a dam, had to cross over the dam to get to the next level. So that's what my youthful experience of money was. In regards to receiving it, in regards to the life that I lived, I always felt I lived when I was younger, before I went off on my own. We lived a very comfortable life.
So you've identified several strengths that I want to repeat back to you. And I also heard another. So you've said several times a good strategist, a belief or a faith, if you will, in yourself and that things will turn out okay. And also when you describe your relationship with your father, I wonder if you would generalize and say that interpersonally you perhaps had good emotional intelligence or people skills. So I'm hearing that as well.
Yeah, no, I definitely think that it did develop the ability to work with different, to be responsive to what people needed. Absolutely. It definitely heightened that. And I believe I'm still very good at that, at being with individuals, listening to where they are and being able to respond to that rather than listening or being directed by what I think I need only. And so, I mean, we go into all our relationships needing something, obviously, whatever it is, business or otherwise. but I'm very much conscious of what the other person needs. And I think that skill came from that. And being able to feel into what are people experiencing, and then how to speak into that in a constructive way. I've been told, it's hard to judge yourself, but I've been told that I'm very good at thinking outside the box, which I don't believe it's outside the box. I think it's just being able to incorporate more of what's going on in the room in a conversation, if that makes sense.
Yes, wonderful. I love, Lauri, how you brought the word and the concept of emotions into it, because that says to me what we traditionally think of as more feminine wisdom, if you will, is part of your strength and part of who you are and what you're bringing into the world.
Well, I mean, the truth of the matter is as we've talked about previously, that I'm very much committed to women understanding just the deep power of who they are, which is this ability to see more than what's just in front of them, the ability to bring in the emotional, the empathic almost ability, I think, that many women have to feel into a situation and then use that to actually make it better in the way in which they handle it. I think it's a skill that's an extraordinary skill that we just, I don't know whether it's society or how we're brought up, we have been told to put it aside, but I think it's an extraordinary skill and should be used definitely more frequently. So
love it. I second that thought. Lauri, you're now a managing partner at Seleen Brighthouse, a real estate investment fund, and a partner at Seleen Palm Springs. Can you talk to me and our listeners about your journey to what you're doing now, and perhaps how what we've just discussed, your strengths, aided you along the way?
Sure. So, well, I've had a long career in construction and development. When my daughter was first born, which is now in the mid 80s, I went back and got an MBA. Yeah, I thought it was the time when I had a child that it was time to go back and get more education. That was a crazy thought, but I did it. And then ended up, I was married to an artist and realized that we needed to start a business if we were going to be partners in providing for our family. So we started a construction company, and I was in construction for 26 years before I sold my share of that business and moved on to developing homes. And that led into Seleen Palm Springs, which is a hotel and condominium project that I'm building here in Palm Springs, 155-room hotel and 90 condominiums, which will be branded Dream Hotels by Hyatt. And then I then started Seleen Brighthouse, to be honest, as a result of having made a very bad investment decision that was, I got caught up in a Ponzi scheme and lost almost $2 million. So, so it was a bit of a life-changing event. And when I after I got over what I felt was shame of it and realized, no, this happens all the time. I started doing research. It's everywhere. Unfortunately, financial scams are everywhere. So I looked back and how did I make the error? And
can I put that I'm sorry to interrupt, a time, like when was that?
I found out that it was a Ponzi scheme at the beginning of 2023.
Oh, so recently.
Recently.
Yes. Thank you. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, it's okay. And I realized that, and I'm a finance person, so, I went against some of my basic values. One, when I met the individual, the way he talked about his family was completely out of sync with how I think somebody should talk about their family. It left a little pit in my stomach, but greed got the best of me, to be very honest. I mean, the return was extraordinary, and I was close to thinking, okay, I wanted to shut down a lot of the activities that I was doing and like refocus on other ones. And this would give me the financial ability to do that. So the return was so great. So greed got hold of me because I know in my heart that return that was offered, which is extraordinary. I'm so embarrassed. I can't even say what it is, but it's unbelievable returns. And I know just from my background that nobody gives you 50% return, like guaranteed, so.
Oh, it was going to be a guaranteed return?
Was an interest payment. So I agreed, got hold of me. And then because it was referred by a friend who'd been invested with them a while, I didn't do a whole lot of due diligence. And I know way better than that. I invest in a lot of things. I'm invested in venture capital and private equity and real estate. And so out of that, I realized if that could happen to me with the education that I have and the experience that I have, can you imagine what goes on with other women?
Yeah.
And so I decided to start Seleen Brighthouse and put together a team. And our whole objective is to provide a asset class that's not currently available to most women outside. Most real estate investments are available to women as homes, fix and flips, and more easily available things that they're aware of. But getting into like funds that invest in real estate, you have to have a lot more money than many of the women we're talking to. But more importantly, the foundation of that fund was to provide education and a community in which women could come together, ask questions, learn about investing, due diligence, how to make good investments, whether or not they invested with Seleen Brighthouse or not. And that was kind of the foundation of what Seleen Brighthouse is to be, and still is. And we have now we just started, we put the fund together at the end of 2024. So we're fairly new, but we've maybe spoken to 100 women so far and are learning about what they need, what their concerns are about investing, and trying to address that. Our goal is to make them what we call better LPs. How do you be a really good limited partner in your investments? How do you ask the questions you need to ask? How you get over the fear of not asking, that your question might not be a good question or that it's a silly question? How to just really be a great investor and not give up who you are as a woman. So how do you bring those things that we talked about at the beginning, the emotional understanding, the desire to make a contribution, the fact that women tend to be more risk averse and also do better at due diligence. Well, how do you do really good due diligence? How do you investigate so that you know that you're comfortable asking the questions you need to know that you can make that investment? So that's kind of what the basis of Seleen Brighthouse is. I hope that answered your question. That was a big answer. I'm sorry.
You are not the sum of your earnings. You are the sum of your yearnings. If you're ready to use wealth to create more freedom and flexibility, let's align your finances with what matters most. Together, we'll build a plan that balances your scarce resources of energy, time, and money, so you move forward with clarity, confidence, and less stress towards a life of true abundance. Learn more at www.trueabundanceadvisors.com and schedule a short conversation. You did touch briefly on, for example, women tend to be a little bit more risk averse than men, though frankly, I think, and I'm sure you know this, Lauri, that women, because we're risk averse, we tend to be better investors because
Yes.
we're not just trading our portfolio constantly, but we're making, buy and hold decisions.
Absolutely.
As a long-term investor myself, I think for an individual is the correct way to go. I'm curious, what are the questions that women ask that might be different from men? How do women do investing and business differently than men?
So I don't know that I know the answer to that specific question, but what I do notice is that women have their trajectory. So what we notice, our fund, for example, is expect our fund to be about 6 years.
Got it. Thank you.
Yes. So we expect an exit in about year 6 of the fund. And what we notice is this seems to be a barrier for many women. And when we dive deep, what we're noticing is that what they're looking at is very short term. Many of the women we're talking to have children still in high school or possibly in college. And they're not often looking at a bigger view of what's their legacy, where do they want to be in 10 or 15 years, along with how they need to manage the current. And so their strategies are shorter term.
Interesting.
And so what we're trying to address is you can do both, and you need to be doing both. You can't just look at the next 2 years. You need to be looking at 2 years and 5 years and 10 years. And how do you position yourself for all the things that are going to happen over that period of time, whatever that time frame is. So that's been a major awakening for us in understanding that. Because and a little bit of, I think, is driven, at least my observation is a little bit by fear, again, of not knowing, will they have what they need past the horizon that they can see? And that definitely taps into what we talked about at the beginning of this conversation about the fear of it going away, my understanding from my childhood, right? So I want to address that because, again, back to, you need to understand the power of who you are. You can create. You can't be afraid that somebody will take it away from you. It may happen that you lose your job or you have a change in circumstances, but you have to trust yourself to know that you can rebuild it. That is a fundamental trust in oneself that builds wealth, in my opinion.
I love how you weave faith into the idea of investing. And I just want to, add on as a corollary to what you said about the time frame, Lauri, which is, on the one hand, as I say to the women I work with, I believe you're going to live till 95, if not longer. And so no matter how much wealth you have, you need to take some risk with it. Because you want your money to do better than the inflation rate. Putting it all in the bank, putting it under your mattress is taking a lot of risk that you will outlive your money. On the other hand, I'm still reflecting on a phone call I got recently about, I have money in the market and I'm really anxious about the political environment. And so what should I do? I need this money to do my kitchen. And I said, excuse me? I said, I'm not even going to opine on the political environment. If you need your money within the next 3 to 5 years, it should not be in the stock market. Buy a CD, put it in cash, because you and I understand that over time, if you believe in capitalism, if you believe in the growth of our economy, your money will make money. But with these little vacillations over shorter periods of time, who the hell knows? So if you need the money to redo your kitchen, it should not be in the stock market. And right, so there is risk is correlated with time frame. The longer time frame you have, the greater risk you can take.
Right. Well, we try to talk to women that if you put your money in your mattress, you're still losing money.
Yep.
So if you're afraid of losing money and you think you're saving your money by not taking risk, you actually have just lost money.
Yes.
So because in your mattress, you're losing it to inflation, as you said earlier. So we do start there, like just the fundamental understanding about risk. We also talk about, for example, just using your example about needing a kitchen. Does that really fit into the bigger plan of what you want to create out of your life? Because we talk to women about deferred gratification. We live in a society that we're always bombarded with purchase, have more, have that bag, that Hermes bag that puts you back months of pay or whatever, a new kitchen. is like, is that in line with really what your bigger goals and desires are for the kind of life you want to live in total? And I think that's a really interesting introspection to have as to how to start planning how to use your money to actually get to where you want to be in total, not just tomorrow, not just in the next year. Like you said, we may all I intend to live to 100. So, and I intend to be productive through all that time, you know? So how do I want all of that to look? Not just this year. And I think that's an important perspective to look at, because then you can compartmentalize. Like you said, if you really need that kitchen, then don't be in the market. Or maybe you only need a new oven. Do you know what I mean? And how do you, but looking at it in a much bigger picture. And that's what we've been addressing. I think that when women, younger women especially, have children still in school or in college, the perspective, you know, they narrow down much more so. And they need to expand again, is my thought, in their vision of themselves and their legacies. And, you know, with this great wealth transfer that's coming, yes, over the next 10 years or so, I think $30 trillion. The average, I think I read, was somewhere between $200,000 and $700,000 most women will receive. And so having a plan that allows for that. And I had a conversation yesterday, really understanding what you're really worth. I'm amazed at the women that I speak to who actually don't know their net worth. They don't actually know and can tell you all of the assets that they own, or they can tell you the ones that are most visible, but they forget about some of the others, you know, for whatever. 401k from an old job they forgot they had, or, you know, so it's about consolidating a lot of that. Again, it goes back to looking at your life a little bit strategically, and being responsible for it in a way that you're really responsible for it. You know, it's not just happening to you. You're happening to it, if you will. So
yes. You're reminding me, we're both finance professionals, of how we as people who deal with money can take it for granted a certain level of clarity about our own finances. So I'm like, oh, I provide clarity. And then you realize how life-changing giving someone their balance sheet, like these are your assets, these are your liabilities, helping them understand cash flow, right? This flow of money. This is what actually gets deposited in your bank account after taxes, after retirement plan contributions each month. And then this is what you've committed to. You're paying this mortgage. You have a Netflix account. And, you know, this is what's left at the end. And how that can be such an aha moment for people. And you feel like, well, that's not really that valuable a service. And it's like,
it's incredibly empowering.
Yes.
It's incredibly empowering to know, because generally people are worth more than they think. That's what I have found. At least when people really put down what they have, it's like, whoa, you know, like it's generally more than they think, because it's just not in their consciousness. It's a very empowering, and I think it should give, and I hope it gives the women I talk with more confidence in then proceeding with being more responsible. And I hate the word responsible in as much as this is not a make wrong in any way, but like I can hold the reins. I don't need my husband to do it for me, or somebody who only talks to me when they want to sell a stock to do it for me. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can be a partner in this process. Yes. And that's, I think, very, very important and very empowering. And I think it's the time for women to do that, because women are going to be inheriting all this money. They're going to live 7 years longer, I think the stat is, than their husbands. And the truth be told, if you look into households, you know this as well as I, they make all these financial decisions.
Yep. Again, day to day, as you said.
Exactly. So you might as well understand everything you have control of, you know? So.
One of the things I heard you say, Lauri, was that you're helping women understand their bigger values and how they can express those through their finances. And I'm just curious if you have any practices or how you help women do that, specifically because, as you know, our inner voice can just get drowned out by the culture, the family we grow up in, the people we partner with, the commercials we watch, and we lose touch with what we actually value. So I'm curious to hear how you help connect
Well,
women.
yeah, well, everybody, if you ask them their values, people will say honesty, integrity. Okay, fine. We all say we're committed to that. When I speak about values, it's digging deeper, like, how do you want to show up in the world? Who are you when you show up in the world? What do you want people to leave with an impression of you as somebody? And that goes deeper. Like, when you start to look like, who do you want to be in the world? Then you start looking at things bigger than, much more focused than honesty and integrity. The kind of person, how you want to be in tension situations, how you want to be in face of loss, how do you want to be in face of conflict, like really getting down to those values and then using those to figure out how you interact, how you choose even your financial advisor. Like, they can be really good on the performance, but are they somebody you can really work with based on who you are? So that you have a really true partnership where you are in that partnership. That's just an example because we're talking finance, but I spend time on that. And when I'm in situations and something goes differently than I expected, I spend time looking at how I was responsible. And I think the more you look and say, I created that situation, I'm responsible for it, the more you learn about yourself and the more successful you are in the future in dealing with situations that might be reminiscent of that or similar to that. And you're more self-aware. And I think the more self-aware you are, the more powerful you are in the world. And that takes a lot of work and a lot of being willing to see the ugly side of yourself. Because we're all not just beautiful inside. We have ulterior motives. Like I said, I got greedy on that Ponzi scheme. I'm like, I was embarrassed that I was greedy, but I say it like, I got it. I was greedy. And being able to say that is a freeing moment. It also keeps me from trying to be greedy again or falling hostage to greed again. It might happen, but now I'm at least conscious of it.
Yes.
So I hope that answers that question successfully, but that's my methodology.
Yeah, and I'm feeling myself drawn to add to that as you communicated that with a smile, Lauri, that there's also a self-kindness involved, like, sweetheart, you're trying to build financial security for yourself. This seemed like, and so understanding with a kind way
Yes.
that we're not going to make perfect decisions.
Oh, absolutely not. And forgiveness of oneself is a major thing.
Love it.
Major. And because if you don't forgive yourself, you can't move forward because you're going to be busy hiding it.
Yes.
The more you hide, the less you can do successfully, in my opinion, because you're so busy managing all these things that you've hidden. So being forgiving of oneself is important. And I recognize, like, when I'm in conversations, listen, I encourage people to be honest with me. So sometimes I'm told things, my daughters especially,
Of course,
that make me cringe about myself. And I am so grateful at the same time, because if I'm cringing, it's something I need to look at. It's not something I need to hide from or push back on. It's like, oh, if this is what somebody's seeing, I need to look at it, not hide from it, because I want to be effective in the world. I want to be powerful in the world. And if this is the effect I'm having on people and they're brave enough to tell me, then I want to look at it, because obviously I'm not being as powerful or as impactful as I could be, because that's the way they're experiencing me. So I take input. I think input is a very valuable thing to get. And that would be something else to do, as well as self-reflection and responsibility, is you want to get input from people, especially people you admire or you respect, or you know you have a lot of interaction with who see a lot of you. Do you know? It's very important.
I want to echo back something you said a little bit earlier. As a financial advisor, I encourage all women who come to me asking for services to speak to several financial advisors, because this is going to be an important relationship built upon trust. And someone who clicks with me might not click with someone else, and vice versa. I might not be the right person in terms of personality and world view. And so it really is important to interview several financial advisors. And the other thing I would say to values is I have a many year background in investing. So I find that I'm spending my time really on creating practices that can help my clients get to know themselves.
Oh, wow.
I hate to use the term soft skills. I really feel like these are hard pieces of knowledge, like what brings you joy, and let's make sure that you're using your money to create a life that brings you joy, and not using your life to just create money, which is what I did for many, many years. And it's one of the reasons I asked you, Lauri, how you do it, because I don't think it's easy, and not everyone's going to be open to that work.
Right.
And it really is creating listening skills for myself, and not constantly injecting myself and projecting my desires onto others. So it's I find it interesting and important work to do.
Well, I think it's interesting that you bring that up, because, you know, some of the stats out there is that within 12 months of a woman receiving the responsibility for a set of assets, so receiving an inheritance or whatever, that they will generally within 12 months change the advisor that's managing those assets. And it speaks to, I think, where we also want to create some training is for the asset managers, the financial advisors, is how do you bring value to your client as well, such that you have a relationship with them, so that when this event may happen, they're not out looking for somebody else because they don't feel that they're taken care of, or they have no relationship with you, or they, you know, so I think that's a very important piece of being a financial advisor. Now, I'm not a financial advisor, but you know, in the fund, that's a very important piece for us, is what's our relationship with you? And we want it to be open and respectful and available. I think that's a very key element, at least in Seleen Brighthouse it is.
What I'm hearing you saying, Lauri, is that you are developing a relationship with your limited partners. You're not just, you know, here's where you send the check. And
exactly. I'm a limited partner in many a venture where I get a report maybe twice a year, maybe 4 times a year, and a dividend check that sometimes goes into my account and I have no idea what it is. You know, they've sold something, and I have to go on a portal to figure it out.
exactly.
You know,
Me
so
too.
yeah, so I want to do it differently than that. I want it to be a community. So, because I think it's important. I think that's the future. So.
I love that. So as we're getting towards the end of our conversation, I want to ask you, Lauri, how has your definition of success shifted over the years? And specifically, how do you define success when it comes to investing? Is it purely financial, or are there other factors involved?
Whoa.
It's an easy question, right?
Many facets to that one. I have a family of highly successful, extraordinarily self-made, multi-millionaire family, and worth, I think I have one family member that's worth $1 billion self-made.
Wow.
So early and they were successful early in their careers. So back to the self-reflection, I had to stop judging myself against that barometer of the others in my family. Because if I did that, it would all be about what looked to be just financial success. I was only successful if I had lots of money. I no longer think that. I think my measure of success now is what's the impact I'm making in the relationships I have every day. And that hopefully those are the stepping stones to a bigger, more influential life, and hopefully more financial success as a result of that, which hopefully translates into more money. But I'm not driven by the amount of money at the end, though I have a goal. Trust me, I have a goal of where I'd like to be. But I'm not driven by that because I know that that only comes as a result of the impact I'm making every day with the people that are in my life, the decisions that I make. And I make better decisions when I'm in better relationships, when I'm more clear-eyed, when I'm more open. I make better decisions, which hopefully lead to better money. And I think that lesson was very clearly learned when I lost all that money. So I'm even more committed to it now. So that's how I look at my financial success. And I'm very fortunate to be able to create what I call affluency for myself. I'm not mega rich, but I live a very comfortable life. I get to do most of the things that I want. I have certain things I love to do, and I make sure that I can do them. There are some things that I think are driven a little bit by society, and I'm trying to be clear about, like, is this just for my ego, or is this something I really want? I do ask those questions. I know this sounds a little airy, very possibly, but it's how I live my life. And I think it's very valuable. And I think I have wonderful relationships as a result, and I have access to wonderful opportunities as a result. So for me, that has worked. And sometimes I wake up thinking I don't have enough, but I get over that quickly. And after I get out of bed and spend a few moments in the day, do my exercise, I'm like, nope, I got it. I can do it. I can do this. I know what I'm doing. So,
and I hear that your money stories and how that might contribute.
Yes. Absolutely.
To that sense. And I also hear a real, role of spirituality and faith, if you will, that everything will be okay. Also in your life.
If we look, most people, if they look at their life, they have always been okay. Yeah. They haven't maybe been where they think they should be financially, in the house they want, whatever, but they've always been okay. And I think that if you can recognize that, you are on the path to success. I just do, because it takes away that fear that you're going to end up. And we all, end up on the street corner. I don't know anybody that's ever happened to. And they're in all different areas of wealth. Do you know what I mean? From just getting by to very, very wealthy. But they've always been okay. And I think that's a really important thing to really spend time on and come to grips with and actually embody, because it does give you more power and less fear about going forward and doing big things in life, And I think, especially women, I think are meant to do big things in life, whatever that means. And that doesn't mean making, $100 million or being a billionaire. Like, big things could be very big for you in your community, in your family, or with your sister. You don't know what that big thing is, but you won't be afraid to do the things when they grab you. So
what a great message. Thank you. So as we're ending, Lauri, is there something you want to make sure that you say to our listeners that you haven't said yes yet?
Well, to the women who are listening, know that you have the power to do it. It's inside of you, and you just need to discover it and take whatever action, be in any conversation that helps you discover fully who you are. So
beautiful. Thank you so much for being my guest today, Lauri.
Thank you so much, Laura.
Thanks for listening to Making Change with Your Money. Certified financial planner Laura Rotter specializes in helping people just like you organize, clarify, and invest their money in order to support a life of purpose and meaning. Go to www.trueabundanceadvisors.com/workbook for a free resource to help you on your journey. Disclaimer, please remember that the information shared by this podcast does not constitute accounting, legal, tax, investment, or financial advice. It's for information purposes only. You should seek appropriate professional advice for your specific information.